Hey everyone, F. Gardner here. Yeah, so some of my fans were telling me that maybe a good idea for a video to talk about would be like, since a lot of my books, they're based on like urban legends and conspiracies that some of which I think could be true, like maybe talk about in a video for this, like what some like conspiracies that I think are true or might have some truth to them and my thoughts on them. Yeah, so let's see. I made a list here. Yeah, there's supposed to be like, they say there's like 7-something billion people on the earth or whatever. Yeah, I don't think that's true. In fact, let me put it this way. So, you know the saying, it's a small world? Like you run into somebody you know, and you think like, whoa, how's that possible? Like this is such a big place. And like, so for example, take myself. F. Gardner. I live in Chicago. It's like one of the biggest cities on the earth. That's what they say and everything. Maybe it is, but here's the thing. The point I'm getting at, I run into people all the time. People that I know, people that know me. I'm walking down the street. It could be like, I'm walking down Michigan Avenue, like the Magnificent Mile, one of the biggest, most popular spots in Chicago. And I'm walking down there. There's like sometimes like a lot of tourists. Like it's popular for people going shopping and everything, sightseeing in the city of Chicago. Sometimes I'm walking down there and I'm looking around. I'm like, huh. I'm like the only person here today. What's with that? How could that be? This is Chicago. It's huge. Well, that's the thing. There's they say there's only there's like 7 billion people on the earth. I don't think that's true at all. I think there's probably only like millions of people. And it's not like I haven't been outside of Chicago. I've been like across most of the US, most of my country. And I've been, let's see, I've been, all over the states, including Hawaii. I've been to Canada. I've been to Ireland. My family is mostly Irish, so I visited Ireland. I've been to Japan and China. I've been to Japan a couple of times. And I've traveled to all sorts of places. I've been to the Bahamas. I've been there too. Excuse me. Yeah, so Japan. I always hear people say like, like Tokyo. That's like the most like highly populated city on the earth. And when I was in Tokyo, it seemed a lot like Chicago. It seemed like, there's a lot of people, but like, I wouldn't say any more really. More or less, it wasn't really any more or less people in Tokyo than Chicago. And I've been to Japan a couple of times, and it wasn't just for like a day I was there. I was there a significant like amount of time. And not just Tokyo, all over Japan. I've even climbed to the top of Mount Fuji. I've done that. I did that twice actually. So I've been all over Japan, and I've lived in Chicago my entire life. I've been all across the United States. I've traveled the earth, and so they make it seem like, like as if like, oh, you live in Japan, it's got to be like, it's like a can of sardines, or like it's everybody's packed together. And they'll show like videos I've seen like on YouTube where like they're packing in people into the train, like, and like they can barely cram the people in. The conductor or security or whatever, they have to like, they go around at each door and like push everyone in, because there's like, it's like a can of sardines, or like a clown car, like a clown car, like a bunch of clowns get in, and it seems like impossible, like a ridiculous fit. I didn't see that when I was in Japan. I know that's like a specific train or whatever, but I rode on, the bullet train, and it seemed like, I've been on trains in Chicago. We've got the L here, we've got the Metro, and anyway, so I've been on the bullet train in Japan. And I guess that's not the bullet train when they're talking about those. The videos where people are getting crammed into it. But I didn't see anything like that. Like, what I mean is, like, the bullet train and other trains that I was on in Japan just seemed like a train in Chicago in terms of how many people. And not just that, when I'm walking down the streets and everything, downtown Tokyo, whatever, it just seemed like, yeah, it's a big city, yes, but it wasn't like what I was led to believe in terms of like how crowded and like this, and it seemed like significantly more crowded. No, it seemed about as crowded as Chicago. And don't get me wrong, Japan's a great place. I love Japan. I've been there twice, and I'd like to go again. It was awesome. It's way past cool. I love Japan. Everything about Japan's awesome. I love anime, video games, martial arts. I've done martial arts like much of my life. Not limited just to Japanese martial arts, Korean martial arts. But anyway, so yeah, Japan's really cool, but it didn't seem anything like in terms of how crowded they make you think it is. It's not true. It is about as crowded as Chicago. I'm speaking as somebody who's been to Japan a couple times and a lifelong Chicago native. So yeah. Another thing, okay, another conspiracy. I don't know if this one's a conspiracy. It's just like a suspicion I have. So another thing I have here, I made a note of. You know, when you look at you're gonna go to the fridge, get something to eat, and whatever. It could be TV dinner. It could be, or you go to your pantry and you go to get a bowl of cereal, a bowl of Lucky Charms, Cheerios, whatever. It says the calories. Yeah, I think calories are just made up. Like, how could they know? It doesn't seem possible. Yeah, and over real quick before I forget, back to the 7 billion people on the earth. Well, I don't think that's true. You might as well say like 700 zillion. It's just so extreme that it just seems ridiculous. I don't believe it. I had my reasons, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you Google something, go on Google right now and Google F. Gardner, Google Call the Crocodile, Google whatever you want. Pepperoni pizza, whatever. It'll say how many results. And if you go to the last, like, it'll say, oh, there's like 500 billion search results displayed. And then if you click to the bottom of it, to the last page, like page, whatever the last page is, 50, 200, or whatever, it'll say displaying X amount of results. And it won't be anywhere near that number. It'll be like in the thousands instead of like billions for the search results. And that's even if you do the option to like, what is it called? Like display repeated results or search results or whatever. So it'll display things that are repeated. That's even with that, like including that. So I think it's like to create this illusion that there are more people on this earth. They try to make it seem like there's more people on the earth when it's really significantly less. Aliens, that's another thing. I don't believe aliens exist. I think that's why it's pushed so heavily in the media, like, and they're talking about, oh, they're going to disclose alien life forms. Like, I don't think it exists. I think that there are like interdimensional beings, like higher life forms, in the sense that like we can't normally communicate with them. So I think those exist, but so I don't think they're coming from outer space. I think they're coming interdimensionally, essentially, or from other land that we don't know of. I think there's a lot more land. I think there are secret continents that most people don't know of, like Lemuria, Terra Vista, Atlantis. Those are actually real things, and it's a complex matter. But Most people don't know about it. We're not allowed to go there. And extraterrestrial, that means extra territory. They're coming from other territory too. So a combination of that, interdimensionally and from other territory, other land, maybe from beneath the ocean too. I've seen some compelling arguments that posit that perhaps what we're calling aliens, flying saucers, whatever, could be coming from the depths of the ocean. Because you think about it, they're always discovering like giant squids and stuff that we didn't know existed. And so who knows what's like down there. And yeah, that brings me to my next point, outer space. I don't believe outer space is real, because they claim they can, they know what these planets look like that are millions or whatever, miles, light years, whatever, away. We don't even know what's down in the ocean. We're always finding stuff that we didn't know existed all the time, like giant squids or whatever other sort of sea creatures, life down there. So we don't even know what's down there in the depths of the ocean, yet they expect me to think that, oh, this is what Neptune or Venus, whatever, looks like, and that we're going to travel to Mars. Yeah, this is, a lot of people get angry about this because like they like the idea of traveling to outer space and everything. But I mean, there's no need to be angry. In fact, I think this makes life a lot more exciting, the fact that they're keeping these secrets and everything. So if anything, it is more exciting, and that doesn't suddenly ruin, like if you like something like Star Wars or Star Trek, those are both great. I like Star Wars and Star Trek too. But like, I like Pokemon. I grew up in the 90s. I'm 33 years old. When Pokemon came out, that was my life. I thought it was rad. It was awesome. It was the best thing ever. And still to this day, yeah, I think Pokemon's really cool. I love it. My love for Pokemon has never faded away. But I know it's fiction. That doesn't take away the fun. So I view the same way I view, like Star Wars and Star Trek. It's fiction. It's a fantasy. So when people talk about outer space, and if you say you don't think it's real, you think it's fake, it doesn't mean you're taking away that fun for them. Like I said, I know Pokemon isn't real. That doesn't necessarily ruin the fun. Do I wish Pokemon was real? Abso-fucking-lutely. That would be the best thing ever. That'd be fucking awesome. But I know it's not real. It's a fantasy. It's still cool. So I view the same sort of thing in outer space. And yeah, the reason why I don't believe in outer space, well, so here, I'll give you some religious background about myself. So a lot of my books that I write, so the Horrors Call series of books. I have 13 books. My most well-known book, my most famous title is Call the Crocodile. It's become the fan favorite. And yeah, so when I wrote that and a lot of my other books, it so happens that like religion kind of goes hand in hand with horror sometimes, like in the sense that for example, like ghost, like the afterlife, it's kind of a scary concept. I think it kind of invariably is. People talk about that, and yeah, people get scared about, well, what's after, what happens when you die, about the afterlife and stuff like that. And yeah, so like for example, look at The Exorcist. Like that's a scary story. There's religious stuff in it, and so yeah, I kind of do stuff like that. In the sense that I try to incorporate my knowledge of like theology into my books. Even though my books are fiction, horror fiction, I try to include some theological, religious stuff. Not in a disrespectful way, and not necessarily even limited to just one religion. Like, I'll have like stuff about Christianity, Catholicism, or just Abrahamic faiths in general, like in a lot of my books. But I also have like elements of Buddhism in a lot of them. Like I have one one of my one of the many novels I've written is Jigoku. So Jigoku, that's basically, long story short, that's hell in within Japanese Buddhism. So just for an example off the top of my head, one of my more recent books, horror, is called, I have some, I've got some elements of Buddhism and Hinduism too, Taoism. So I was trying to focus a little more on the Eastern stuff. And it, like, combined with that and Western or Abrahamic, whatever religions, like, it just it works well. Like it complements well with, like, for horror. It just kind of mixes well with that. So yeah, I consider myself to be pretty well read, well versed in, like, theology. I'm not claiming to be, like, an expert. I mean, there are people that can study theology, even just one specific religion, or denomination or school, whatever, and still not consider to themselves to be an expert necessarily, because it's such a complex subject matter. So I don't consider myself necessarily being an expert, but I certainly more versed than, like, the average person. Sure. I don't think that's an arrogant claim. I think because a lot of what I read recreationally, it'll be like religious stuff. I'll still read other things, like horror novels. Like, I write horror. I like horror. That's part of why it got me into it. I grew up reading Stephen King and, you know, stuff like that. I think, Stephen King, I think he's the man. He's awesome. So I read a lot of theology, like religious stuff, text, scriptures, and that led me to various conclusions. That so I'm Buddhist. That's my religion. That's what I've become convinced is the truth. And it was sort of just a long journey of, like, reading, coming across various sources of information, and that's the rabbit hole it's led me down to. And if someone has different religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, or if they're not religious at all, hey, I totally respect them. I'm not trying to preach or evangelize them to Buddhism. No, it kind of makes me feel like kind of bad, in the sense that I don't want to tell someone they're wrong. Like, in Buddhism, the logic is, like, when someone's ready, they'll find the Dharma, like the teachings of the Buddha. So, yeah, that's just kind of how I accept it. And being that I accept it, so, for example, and not a lot of people know this about Buddhism. I'll say a couple things people don't know about Buddhism. First off, the earth is flat. And I'm not putting words in the mouth of Buddha. Like, the historical Buddha, he, like, literally said, like, you could look in Buddhist scriptures, the sutras, and this doesn't matter if you're Theravada, Mahayana, the whatever various schools. It's the point stands is that flat earth cosmology is in Buddhism, that's what it was taught. And it's not limited to Buddhism. A lot of people think flat earth is like just like Christian people that are trying to evangelize people to Christianity, like, oh, it's just like people that are really strict, like New Age creationists, like that term, like people that are just, like, really stick to the fundamental things about, like, they have a very literal interpretation. But it's not limited to that. It's all across all religions. It's in Buddhism, it's in Taoism, it's in Vedic cosmology, it's in everything. All across the board, all across all other religions. And basically, so I've come to terms with, like, what they said is true, and, like, a lot of, not just in, so, like, Buddhism would have originated in, like, India. So like, a lot of what they said there is true in like the ancient Chinese, like with Taoism, like yeah, they were just saying like it's like the science of reality, like actual real science, as opposed to something more modern that masquerades as science today that I don't agree with. I think it's a lot of modern science I think are just tricks. Like I turn on the TV. Well, I almost never watch the TV because it's just like lies. But if I turn on the TV, I just think, no, they're trying to trick me. These are tricksters, and I don't believe they have the scientist on there. Because Buddhism says that not just that the earth is flat, it says it's fake. Like, reality is fake. It doesn't, like, so think of the Matrix. That's probably one of the best ways you could think of it in terms of our like limited human brains is like the Matrix. So like they'll use this term samsara in Buddhism. And the samsara is like the Matrix, like the system. This is all illusory. It's an illusion. It doesn't exist. It's fake. And there's constantly things trying to trick you into thinking it's real. I think that's what outer space is. It's like these people that they claim to be experts, they're just kind of like priests, like new age or new modern. It's like in the olden days when somebody would have been labeled a heretic or for whatever, blasphemer. And now they have people, they say you're, oh, you don't believe in science. Well, it's like the modern day equivalent of that. And I don't believe them. I don't have anything against people that do believe them. I'm not going to try to tell them necessarily they're wrong, but I feel compelled to tell the truth about what I think, my honest opinions. So I don't like telling people they're wrong and like trying to make them think what I believe, because I'm a proud American. And I believe in freedom of religion and stuff like that. So if someone believes in like a lot of modern science, I'm not going to be angry or hostile toward them. No, I respect them, and I think they're entitled to their opinions. I'm not claiming to know everything. But based on my life, my the whatever various rabbit holes I've fallen down, I've come to believe Buddhism is it's real. So it's like whether I like it or not. I think that people, if they saw this, what led me to come to these same conclusions about flat Earth, about the world being fake, about outer space being fake, all these things, I think that they would realize, they would connect the same dots that I have. It's not like I'm not saying like, F. Gardner, he's a super genius. He understands things other people can't. No, it's not that. It's that I try to look at things, I try to be unbiased, and that's impossible. Everybody's going to be biased to some extent. But I try to look at things with an open mind. And I'll go into some things. When I first started looking at a flat Earth, I thought, there's no way that could be true. Excuse me. But I looked into it, and eventually I was like, wait a minute. I'm making some good arguments. I kind of looked into it like almost like as like a joke. Like I heard about it. And I thought, well, I'll get a kick out of this. Let's see why these guys think the earth is flat. And that's how every single person who becomes a flat earther starts off. Every single person who is a flat earther, and listen very closely to what I'm saying, starts off thinking that's totally insane. And they get angry a lot of the time. I remember, that's how I felt. I thought, like, that's ridiculous. It's idiotic. It's not even worth my time to investigate. It's not worth taking seriously. Then I looked into it, kind of as a joke at first. And then I realized, oh, shit, no, this is true. I couldn't believe it. That's the same experience everybody has. And it can be depressing for some people. Like you'll hear the term, the term red pill, like in the Matrix, the blue pill. Like you stay in this false reality. The red pill, you fall down the rabbit hole and want to know how deep it goes, like what Morpheus says to Neo. Well, the Matrix wasn't based on nothing. It was basically based on Buddhism and Flat Earth, like that kind of stuff. Like, and yeah, so long story short, yeah, the Earth is flat and Buddhism is unironically true. I'm not trying to convince anybody, but I like to tell people my honest thoughts. And I haven't even gotten into the heavier stuff, actually. This is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what led me here, because I'm trying to be very concise. I'm just mentioning some of the more basic parts. If I mention like the really heavy stuff, you would turn this video off right now, because you would think I'm like joking or just lying, like, or crazy, I guess. Like, you wouldn't believe it. So what I'm mentioning right now is the very, very basic stuff that led me to these conclusions. And I don't mean that in like a cocky, arrogant way. I just feel compelled to tell what my honest opinions are. I'm not trying to convince anybody otherwise. Oh yeah, okay, another I don't know if you could even call this conspiracy, since I don't really view a lot of these as conspiracies. If I think something is true, I don't really view it as a conspiracy, but whatever, it is what it is. Yeah, smoking cigarettes, I mentioned it in one of my other videos. Yeah, so if somebody tells me not to do something, not only does that make me want to do it, but it makes me think that I should do it. And you could say, yo, F. Gardner, you're crazy for thinking that. Fine, you can think that if you want, but that's my honest opinion. As a proud American, if somebody tells me, hey, you can't do that, you bet your ass I'm going to do it. So if somebody tells me not to smoke, I definitely am going to smoke. I love cigarettes, and I think it's like cigarettes, one of the greatest things in life, period. So I think smoking is good for you. And again, I'm not trying to say, this video isn't F. Gardner saying you should go out and smoke cigarettes right now. Start chain smoking, at least a pack a day like F. Gardner. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying make your own conclusions, make your own decisions, and follow where the logic, what it dictates. Like where does it take you? Do your own research. And if people tell you not to do something, it makes me think, wait, why are they not telling me to do this? And yeah, there are a lot of bad things that they tell you not to do, but cigarettes, I don't see the evidence for it being bad. There's like, I talked about this in an interview I was on with the Unreal Press. I'll give those guys a shout out, the Unreal Press. So anyway, yeah, so those guys, they reached out to me and they asked me, hey, F. Gardner, what do you think about cigarettes? Is smoking good for you, or is it healthy? And yeah, so kind of paraphrasing myself from what I'm trying to remember how I answered that, it's sort of the same way here. I'm not trying to necessarily advocate in the sense that I'm not telling people to smoke, because I don't like to tell people what to do, period. Since I'm like a proud American, I'm a patriot. I don't like other people telling me. I don't like people telling F. Gardner what to do, and F. Gardner doesn't like telling other people what to do. I leave it at that, and I let people make their own decisions. And smoking, yeah, I'm not convinced it's bad. Like, you look at, yeah, the Japanese in Japan, smoking is a lot more common there in Japan than it is in the United States. They hardly ever get cancer by comparison, if you compare these statistics. The diet is completely different. Here in the United States, a lot of people have unhealthy diets, not so much in Japan. That tells me the connection, or correlation rather, between cancer, it's more about the diet than anything. Like if you have too much red meat, there's nothing, it's not that red meat's going to give you cancer, but that I think contributes. But smoking, I haven't seen any evidence of that. I don't believe it. And in fact, I think smoking, it just gives you more energy, and maybe that's why they don't want people to do it. Let's see some other things. Yeah, so like I said, the ancient Chinese, not just ancient Chinese, but ancient like Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, they were they were right about pretty much everything. And they'll use the term, so in Chinese, they'll use the term qi. And in the Japanese and the Koreans, will use the term ki. It means the same thing. It's just like this universal life force, kind of like people call it different things, like real, for example, or prana. It's basically the Star Wars force. That idea wasn't from nothing. They got it from Buddhism and Taoism too. And yeah, so like for example, Zen Buddhism, it'll have a lot of elements of Taoism, because when Buddhism came to China, it kind of mixed with some Taoist beliefs, and that's why you had Buddhist temples there, like the Shaolin temples, Kung Fu, and then that would have became like, karate in Japan, Taekwondo, Korea. So yeah, they have this element of ki or chi, and it's the same principle. And there's this life force of the earth or reality or whatever you want to call it, or universe. And the universe doesn't exist in the sense of like outer space. There's no such thing as like other planets. The earth isn't even really a planet. The earth is a realm. And planet, the word planet just means wandering star. That's what it means. And so like, and the stars are just lights, basically. Like, they give you powers. Like, it's a long story for how that is. If you want to know that, look into like the Tao Zhang. We'll talk about that. The best source for that would probably be the Taoist canon, the translation of the Tao Zhang. Yeah, I read that in the past year. It's remarkable. It's one of the greatest resources in that regard. And but this stuff is in Abrahamic faiths too. Like they talk about the firmament, the dome, the flat Earth dome, and the luminaries, stars. So it's all across the board. It's in Vedic cosmology. So yeah, they'll talk about that, and ki is definitely real. And go talk about this in ancient, traditional Chinese medicine. Modern science tries to trick you and make you think, oh, you don't want to believe in that. That's hocus pocus. Well, that's because it works, and they don't want you to know that. Yeah, so stuff like acupuncture and everything else that comes with traditional Chinese medicine is true. And that includes a lot of religious stuff, Buddhism, and a lot of Taoist stuff. Yes, that's sort of what led me to being Buddhist and going to Buddhist temples and realizing that this is just a fact of life, that this is real whether I want it to be or not. And I've always sort of believed in, since I've done martial arts much of my life, and I've long accepted a lot of the mystical aspects, like ki or chi. But it wasn't until recently that I came to accept Buddhism, and I already accepted like that there may be truths, but now I've accepted that it's all true, that Buddhism is just the reality, or closest to reality. So what I mean by that is, and this is definitely another conspiracy, one that not a lot of people talk about, at least not in the same sense that I'm about to. So take The Matrix again. Remarkable film, one of the greatest movies ever made, particularly the first one. Now, you know how it's all like a simulation and everything. So that idea is from Buddhism. They did not get that idea from nothing. It came from Buddhism. They call it samsara, like the system you're in and everything. That's like the equivalent of the Matrix. But it's not like a computer simulation. So when people talk about, oh, could we be living in the Matrix? Yes, that is basically, well, kind of true. It's just thinking in terms of a computer, like a simulation, simulated reality, like The Sims, like that video game, or The Matrix, that movie. That's a human way of thinking. It's relating to things we as humans can understand. So the truth is that it's beyond that, and we can't fully put into human terms because we're limited. For example, like it's like trying to explain. It's like being in the Matrix and trying to explain to somebody what's outside of the Matrix while you're still inside of it. The only way you could do that is to take them outside of it. They won't know for sure. And oh, here's another. Yeah, this definitely relates to it. So you hear about people smoking DMT or having whatever, magic mushrooms, stuff like that, and having these more real than real experiences. They'll say like, whoa, this world is unreal, and what I went to, man, like, whoa, man, that was more real than this. Well, that's because it's basically the truth. So yeah, Buddhism talks about that, how there's this higher, so like there's, for example, I'll relate this into a way people in the West can understand more. Like when you talk about like angels and demons, like these higher beings, angelic realms, heavenly, whatever. Like, so in Buddhism, yeah, you have like the devas and the same general idea, these higher beings. And I think that's what DMT will encounter, these things like machine elves. That's the term, machine elves or clockwork elves. I'll hear that term used too. It's essentially what they're describing. And I'll hear some people say, oh, they're all nice. Some people say, oh, they're evil, they're demonic or whatever. And I'm inclined to think that maybe it's a mix of both. I don't think that they're necessarily, that you're thinking in terms of good and bad. I don't know if they even really inherently apply necessarily. That it's just like these higher, different beings, the life forms different than we know it, than we understand it as mere mortals. But that there's something beyond that. Like in Buddhism, it's nirvana, or from a Christian perspective, heaven, or like whatever, paradise, whatever you want to call it. I think I've come to terms with, just my personal opinion is that I think Buddhism is the closest to the truth. And yeah, I've accepted it as the truth. And yeah, if people fall down the rabbit hole that I have, they probably will too. And I don't like to come off as preachy, but I like to tell people the truth about what I think about things. Part of what led me there is realizing that reincarnation's real. Like, think about it like this. So reincarnation's been reported for all of human existence. And not just that, but memories of previous lives. Why do you think that is? Like, it's pretty consistent in the sense that, like, you can go back thousands of years, people talking about, oh, I have memories of a previous life. Well, it's because it's true. And if you look at reports of people talking about they can remember reincarnation, you'll notice a lot of it's consistent. A lot of similarities, extreme similarities. So it's like if you're a detective and you see a lot of compelling evidence, it's consistent. You think, well, wait, there might be something to this. So you have people all across the earth from different countries going back thousands of years, and it's all consistent. I can't just dismiss that as like fake. It doesn't make sense. It's like, how could someone thousands of years ago still be reporting something virtually identical? So yeah, I've become convinced that that's real. And I looked into this conspiracy theory called the light trap. It's also known as the soul trap and the reincarnation trap. There's other names for it. So people will talk about like that they'll have this sense of unreality, like that like life is fake, that they were never born, that there's no such thing as their self, that no one exists, they don't exist, and that they've done this before, or that they're in this they realize that, oh wait, my life was like a dream that didn't really happen, and they'll have like a light, their sins or bad karma or immorality, whatever, is reviewed. They'll have this life review, and they'll see bright light, and then they'll be forced to reincarnate and do it all over again. Well, that's what Buddhism has always taught. So that's been reported going back to the dawn of man to now. And I've noticed that a lot of the time, if a Westerner has this experience, they have some sort of out-of-body experience, a DMT experience, or like a really vivid dream that it's this more real than reality feeling. They'll think like, oh wait, that this is like this reality, there's something beyond this reality, that this is like almost like a dream, that it's not real. And they'll see this bright light. That's, I think, is probably the wheel of life in Buddhism. You see this bright light, and your life is reviewed. The life review that happens in Buddhism, the reviews are bad karma, or what most Westerners would think of as their sins or immorality, evil deeds, whatever. It's the same general idea. And yeah, this has been reported for forever. I think it's where the idea of like, something like Gnosticism, they'll have this idea of the demiurge, where that kind of happens. I think that's because that was basically based on Buddhism. And if someone's Gnostic, I'm not going to try to tell them they're wrong necessarily. I respect their opinion, their religious view. But I think a lot of Westerners reach that conclusion who might fall down what they're viewing as a rabbit hole and lead them to thinking that, or believe in other conspiracies like the light trap. They won't realize, they'll connect dots that don't connect, and then they won't realize that, oh wait, this is what Buddhism has always taught. There's a lot of Westerners in the United States or otherwise, they'll think, oh, Buddhism, that's just about meditating and helping people, and sure, that's part of it, but they won't realize that Buddhism teaches that fundamentally life is fake, that this is not real. That so it's like you're having a dream or nightmare, you wake up from it, then you realize the dream never happened. It's like that, except even more profound, is even greater than that, because that's a limited way of putting it based on our limited human comprehension, putting things into words. So, but essentially in a nutshell, it's like that the world isn't real, life isn't real, reality is fake, none of this is really happening, and if you realize that, it can snap you out of it, and the end goal is nirvana. And a lot of people don't know that's what Buddhism teaches. So, and just to be clear, so everything we're looking at right now, this video you're watching of me, this is conventionally real, not fundamentally real. In the same sense that when you're having a dream, if you're having a very vivid dream, that's basically real to you as far as the dream lasts. It is conventionally real. But when you wake up, you realize that it was not fundamentally real, that it never happened. So it's similar in that sense. Yeah, if you want to know what I'm talking about and interested in Buddhism, I guess read the Diamond Sutra. That'd probably be the best place to start with that. Anyway, yeah, so Buddha said the earth is flat, and yeah, so I'm a Buddhist, I'm a flat earther. Smoking is good for you. Let's see, anything else I didn't cover here? Oh, sun and moon gazing. This is one, yeah, is interesting. So I started hearing about sun gazing, and people were asking me, "Oh, F. Gardner, what do you think about sun gazing? I've heard that people say that they've heard that staring at the sun is good for you." And at first, when I heard that, I was like, "Well, I don't want to do that. That sounds dangerous." And yeah, I looked into it, like in the sense that I found out the ancient Chinese did talk about that, and I have not been doing sun gazing, but I found just because I'm still kind of on the fence about that, in the sense that I don't want to damage my vision. So, but I found out moon gazing is actually a thing too. So that the ancient Chinese talked about that too. So the distinction is like sun gazing. It's like it'll make you more attractive to people. That's the logic. That's the argument that I've heard for it. And I know people that do sun gaze, and they say, yeah, you should do it. And I don't know. It kind of scares me thinking about it. I'm still on the fence a bit, but it sounds like there might be truth to it. But don't go out like, if there is merit, truth to that, it's probably not like, don't go out at high noon and just stare at the sun. No, that would be dangerous. You're just going to burn your eyes. But like, if you just like look a couple of seconds at the sunset or the sunrise, that's probably fine. Like, people look at the sunsets and sunrise, like if the sun rises, they'll look at that, and the sunsets, they'll enjoy that already. So I'm inclined to think it's more like moderation than just going outside at high noon and staring at the sun. That sounds dangerous to me, and I would need more convincing. And in that matter, moon gazing is perfectly safe. Yeah, so I do regularly moon gaze, and yeah, so sun gazing, the distinction is like that. They'll say that sun gazing will make you more attractive, or more charismatic, rather, and more charismatic to people. You have more charisma, and you'll be more confident. And yeah, I was thinking, well, sun gazing, I don't know. I'm some of it makes sense to me, but I'm kind of worried about it a little bit. I hear a lot of people that I know make some good points, and I agree with, talk about sun gazing, but yeah, moon gazing sounded safer. So I've been regularly doing that, moon gazing. I don't know if I just misspoke and said sun gazing. Moon gazing, yeah. So I've been regularly doing that. And moon gazing, it's like it'll manifest whatever you want. Like you're more likely to, if you go outside and stare at the moon, and it's like how do you want your life to work out? Like you need to believe it. That's the mistake a lot of people make, I think, a lot of the time, is that whether it's like whatever sort of spiritual belief, and they're thinking, oh, why is my life not working out the way I want it to? Is that you need to have the conviction. For example, myself, I'm F. Gardner. I am author of Call the Crocodile. I'm the author of 13 famous, critically acclaimed horror novels. I'm famous all throughout the earth, and people love my books. Why is that? Well, it's complex matters for many reasons, but one reason is because I knew that I could do it. I'm confident in myself. I didn't doubt my writing ability. Not for 1 second. I didn't have one iota of doubt. I sat down. I thought, you know what? I'm going to write this great horror novel that is going to become a modern day masterpiece. And then now is. Like, people say all the time, yo, F. Gardner, thank you for writing Call the Crocodile. And I've heard people compare me to, and I don't mean this in like an arrogant way. I'm just saying that people will call me like, oh, you're like the voice of our generation for independent literature, or really out there, really far out horror fiction. And I'm really flattered when I hear stuff like that. It's really surreal too, to hear people that flattering, and hear people say like, hey, hey, F. Gardner, I'm from whatever, I'm from England, or I'm from India, wherever, and say they're a fan of my books, because I'm all the way in Chicago. So it's like really flattering to hear, really cool, and I'm really thankful for the fans I've had. But yeah, so You need to believe it. You need to believe in yourself, whatever kind of higher power you believe in. So like Bill W. for AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, he spoke of a higher power, however you envision it. And that could be any number of ways. And so that's part of like why that works for those AA guys, is because they believe it. For those Alcoholics Anonymous guys, they believe it. So like, it's the same way with prayer. You believe it, it becomes true. Prayer, meditation, the law of attraction, chaos magic, all sorts of Taoist magic. It's in a lot of this old, a lot of stuff like that, and you see similarities. And oh yeah, I guess that's another thing. I don't know if you could even call this one a conspiracy too, but yeah, magic is absolutely real. In fact, that this is part of it. Like, so for example, a placebo. A lot of people don't know this. So a placebo is a magic pill. The ancient Chinese understood it as thought magic, in the same manner that like maybe chaos magic or the law of attraction today will be understood, that you're thinking about it and then it happens in real life. That's what the ancient Chinese believed, because it's true. The ancient Chinese knew everything. You guys need to, if you don't think that, you need to start reading ancient Chinese literature, like Buddhist literature, Taoist literature, whatever. That they just, yeah, ancient Chinese, they knew what was up. They were right, and yeah, it's the truth. You could disagree with it, whatever, and you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not trying to convince you, but I like to tell the truth about what I think. And yeah, that's what I think about that. Magic's real, that it's thought magic. That's a form of magic. Maybe the most common form, I don't know. It's that you think about it and you slowly manifest it into reality. And that's part of what I try to talk about that a lot in my books. Like, He's Call of the Crocodile, for example, since that's my most famous novel. That's of all the 13 novels I've written, that's the one that made me world like famous. That people from like will read my other books and everything, but that's the fan favorite. Excuse me. And yeah, people will mention that one all the time to me, and yeah, which I'm very thankful for. So yeah, thought magic. Yeah, so I try to mention that. I tried when I was drafting the manuscript initially for Call the Crocodile. I tried to think, oh, how can this would work really well in like horror fiction. So I was thinking, how can I make this like into a horror novel? That's one of the things that I try to combine conspiracies, urban legends, various religious stuff that I, F. Gardner, know to be true. So I sit down and sometimes it's like, I'll have like a whole story in my head and it's like, oh yeah, I know how to write this and it's just flowing to me. I'm in the zone. But then some other times I'm thinking, I'll sit down at my computer I'll have a cigarette, I'll have a cup of coffee. I sit down and I'll think to myself, F. Gardner, what is the most like magnificent way I could start off like this book and like make it have a great twist. I try to make all my books have great twist, unique twist. And part of why I like to do that, I think, is like I grew up reading like Goosebumps, and yeah, I loved Goosebumps as a kid. I thought they were fucking rad, and I still do. I love them. They're awesome. And not just that, but just for example, a lot of scary stuff. Like there's TV shows too, that Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Tales from the Crypt, that was another one, even though that was like R-rated or whatever. Like, oh, kids aren't supposed to watch this, but that's kids like scary things. When I was a kid in the 90s, I grew up in the 90s, and in the 90s, everybody liked going to haunted houses and scary stuff, like these Freddy and Jason movies or slasher movies. Oh, those are rated R. Kids are not supposed to see that. That just makes kids want to see it even more. At least for me and all my friends. So everybody watched those movies. And I mean, if a parent doesn't want their kids to watch those or read violent books or whatever, that's up to the parent and whatever. I'm not going to tell them what to do. But kids like scary stuff's my point. Yeah, so yeah, as a kid, that, that was a huge influence on me, stuff like that. And it's just natural. Kids like that. Kids like to get scared, and they still do. And my books are written at a more adult level. There's nothing like smutty, like in them. I don't mean it like that. But it's more graphic and like a sense of gore and violence. And I went in terms of profanity. Like, if I have a character swear, if I have a character say the F-bomb, it's only when it serves a purpose for the narrative. So like if it makes a scene more shocking, and not that I just go for pure shock value, but that helps in horror fiction. You need to make a scary scene shocking a lot of the time. You need to creep them out, but a lot of the time you need to make it shocking. So sometimes all of a sudden, whatever, a ghost comes out of nowhere and the character goes, "What the fuck is that?" Like, you need to make it seem clear. Whoa, that character was scared. He was spooked the fuck out. So that's one of the things you need to do. And what Brian called the crocodile, if a character swears in that, if a character says the F word, it's because it's supposed to be a really freaky scene, and because they were fucking terrified. Anyway, the point I'm making is, call the crocodile, the thought magic thing. Yeah, I try to incorporate that toward the climax of that book, towards the end. There's a big twist in that. I'm not going to spoil it, but it pertains to like a lot of kind of magic and stuff that I'm talking about, and not limited to just that book. All 13 of my books, and yeah, I hope to write more. Since I love doing it, I love being F. Gardner. I love being a successful horror novelist. I'm living the dream, and yeah, you guys can. I hope my videos have been educational, because it's part of the purpose. I want you guys to succeed too. So let me see. I think I covered everything on my list. That's just off the top of my head, for conspiracies that I thought you guys might be interested in, and and about Buddhism too. I guess I'll title this video something like "Conspiracies I Believe in and Why I'm Buddhist," or something like that. Conspiracy theories I believe in and how I became a Buddhist. And yeah, I'll think about that, but that's what this video is going to be titled, since that seems to be what I have some like little notes here, but I don't have a script that I go off of, in the same sense that, like, just out here, like how I could talk a lot now as an author, as a novelist. I don't use like a lot of notes or anything for that. Like, a lot of people will have like a really detailed outline. I never use outlines. I don't think they're necessary. People can if they want, that's their business. But I don't believe in using outlines. I think inspiration just comes to you. So it's kind of like that with my videos too, is that I have a little bit of notes here, but I don't need it. I don't need an outline to write, neither do you. So yeah, hopefully you're learning from these videos. Hopefully these are educational. I've been having fun doing it. Yeah, in a way it's a lot like the writing when I'm talking about how ideas just flow to you. If you're in the zone, if you're feeling this sense of inspiration. I'm starting to notice that's like that now too, as a YouTuber or podcaster, whatever this is called. Anyway, it's been fun, and I hope you guys like this video. I'll try to keep doing them. See ya.